The film starts in 2013 in Taguchigalpa, Honduras, where Roberto, a struggling father, resides with his 2 kids, Miguel and Rocío. One day, Roberto encounters Katy Giselle, a former beauty queen, who proposes enrolling his kids in a child modeling agency. Eager to escape poverty, Roberto agrees. Giselle escorts the children to a photo shoot at a specific location. Upon arrival, she welcomes them but insists that only models can enter. Reluctantly, Roberto complies, leaving his kids in her care. Under Giselle's guidance, Miguel and Rocío learn to pose for the camera, gaining confidence and enjoying themselves. They envision a future as famous models, a dream seldom found in their hometown. Upon Roberto's return later that evening, his repeated knocks on the door receive no response. Growing frustrated, he pounds harder, causing the door to swing open. However, the studio is vacant and dimly lit, with no trace of his children. Panic sets in as he attempts to seek help from neighbors, finding no one willing to answer. Frantically, he dashes into the dark streets, searching for assistance and grappling with the unknown whereabouts of his children. Meanwhile, in California, a man browses his computer for pictures of children using a concealed website that sells them to affluent individuals. He peruses through the images, selecting them as if he were shopping on Amazon. In the storyline, unbeknownst to him, Homeland Security is monitoring the man's activities and keeping a close watch on his home. Tim Ballard, a special agent with the Homeland Security Investigations Unit, along with his colleague Chris, is tasked with apprehending such predators. Chris stealthily enters Ernest Oshinsky's house, while Oshinsky remains in his room browsing online. As Oshinsky continues viewing pictures on his computer, he hears a suspicious noise from the living room. Uncertain if it's real or just his imagination, he persists in his online activity. Suddenly, his bedroom door is forcefully kicked open, and an agent tackles him to the ground. Tim and Chris begin a thorough search of the house. They stumble upon a library filled with folders containing distressing images of children. Tim meticulously examines the evidence found in Oshinsky's home, delving deeper into the disturbing videos, which take an emotional toll on him. Confronted with these haunting images and reminded of his own children, Tim feels an urgent need to take action and rescue the innocent victims. Surprisingly, he takes Oshinsky out of his jail cell and initiates a private conversation in the lobby. Tim reveals his personal struggle, admitting that he too wrestled with hidden desires, but made the choice to suppress them. In an attempt to establish a connection with Oshinsky, Tim tries to find a common ground between them. Oshinsky, seemingly believing he has made a friend, grins while standing alone in his cell. When Tim informs his superior about his plan and requests time to execute it fully, his boss grants him a week to complete the task. The following day, Tim escorts Oshinsky home, seemingly granting Oshinsky his freedom. While seated at the kitchen table, Tim discloses that he can drop the charges, but requires a favor from Oshinsky to fulfill his aspirations. He emphasizes the need for Oshinsky's assistance to achieve his dreams fully. Specifically, Tim requests Oshinsky to reach out to his acquaintances to locate a young boy, crucial for realizing his greatest ambitions. The very next day, Ernest Oshinsky meets his contact with the intention of making things happen, aiming to surprise Tim and have the charges dismissed. Unbeknownst to Oshinsky, Homeland Security is monitoring his actions and has photographic evidence. Later that evening, Tim meets Oshinsky at a local diner, where Oshinsky hands him a book containing a picture of a boy named Miguel, Roberto's son. Tim smiles as red and blue lights illuminate the diner from outside. The subsequent day, Tim waits at the Mexican border, anticipating Oshinsky's contact. Despite putting up a facade of normalcy, Tim remains vigilant. The moment arrives, and the man is swiftly apprehended. Tim opens the van's back door to reveal a frightened boy. He reassures the boy that everything will be okay and takes him for a burger to get acquainted. When Tim introduces himself as Timodo in Spanish, the boy is taken aback. His sister had given him a pendant inscribed with the name Timodo, symbolizing the rescuer of children. Tim inquires about the boy's sister, to which he explains that they were locked in a shipping container months ago and transported by boat to the port of Carta. After arranging a flight for the boy's father to reunite with his son, Tim witnesses their heartfelt reunion at the airport. The boy joyfully runs into his father's arms, expressing gratitude to Tim, his savior. Before departing, the boy gifts Tim his pendant and embraces him tightly. However, the boy's sister, Rocío, remains missing, facing unimaginable circumstances. The following day, Tim meets his boss, explaining the lingering situation. Discovering the boy he rescued has a missing sister intensifies Tim's determination. Despite initial reluctance, Tim's tearful plea convinces his boss to grant him permission. He bids farewell to his wife, boards a plane, and heads south of the border to meet a fellow officer who might assist in locating Rocío. His contact introduces him to Vampiro, a former cartel member knowledgeable about trafficking. Tim outlines his plan to save 50 children, mentioning a wealthy individual ready to fund the operation. They scheme to pose as wealthy benefactors, hosting a lavish party, prepared to generously spend to rescue the endangered children. Vampiro reaches out to El Calacas, who can procure children for their operation. Misleading El Calacas, they claim a group of American tourists seeks extravagant parties and are willing to spend lavishly. El Calacas, enticed by the promise of a significant payout, unknowingly leads them to his contacts, including Giselle, the woman responsible for tricking Roberto and abducting his children, among others. As Tim's boss grows frustrated with the slow progress and can no longer provide cover, he declares an end to the operation, urging Tim to return home. Faced with uncertainty, Tim seeks advice from his wife, who suggests quitting his job to focus on saving the children. The next day, Tim calls his boss and resigns. However, the wealthy benefactor Paul, who funded the operation, isn't pleased with Tim's departure from the government service. Paul initially enjoys wielding power through his connection with Homeland Security. However, when Tim passionately pleads for his understanding, highlighting the immense suffering of numerous children, Paul loses interest and refuses further involvement. Later, Paul has a change of heart and visits Tim's hotel room, expressing a newfound willingness to help. Together, they meet with Vampiro, Tim's contact, and devise a plan. Paul intends to purchase an island to act as a facade for hosting an extravagant party. This gathering is their cover, strategically bringing traffickers and a large number of children together. Upon finalizing the island's paperwork, they present the concept to El Calacas, who eagerly snaps pictures of the island to share with his contacts. Giselle agrees to provide children for the event, and Vampiro introduces her to Paul to discuss the party's specifics. The brilliance of the plan lies in trapping the traffickers on the island with no escape, ensuring a successful operation. With surveillance set up, the police force positions themselves in speedboats on the opposite side of the island. When the children arrive, they discover a significant discrepancy in numbers, far fewer than promised. Giselle claims the rest are en route. Tim, communicating with the police commander, urges patience before initiating the raid, aiming to save as many children as possible. He instructs the commander to isolate a man from the group without handcuffing him, creating the illusion that he's an informant. Soon, a boat appears on the horizon, signaling it's time to act. As the boat touches shore, the police launch a swift raid. During the subsequent interrogation of a trafficker, a startling revelation comes to light. The search for Rocío takes an unexpected turn when it's discovered she's been sold to El Alacrán, a notorious rebel leader also known as the Scorpion. Tim's contact warns of the extreme danger in entering El Alacrán's territory, even for the military. Despite the risks, Tim remains resolute in his mission. Vampiro proposes a daring plan. They'll pose as missionary doctors, hoping El Alacrán will allow medical professionals into his territory. Tim and Vampiro adopt their roles and head to the Noino province. Their goal is for news of their presence to circulate. Eventually, Tim gains entry into El Alacrán's domain, and surprisingly, El Alacrán permits his medical services. With this access, Tim seizes the chance to search for Rocío. In the heart of the territory, he locates Rocío amidst a group processing drugs. Despite Tim's assurances of goodwill, Rocío remains distrustful, a sentiment justified by her circumstances. Under the cover of night, Tim finds her in El Alacrán's hut. He reveals his plan to rescue her and bring her home. However, their conversation is abruptly halted when El Alacrán returns. Tim quickly hides, taking advantage of the Scorpion's momentary distraction. In the midst of a confrontation, Tim overpowers and defeats El Alacrán, seizing the chance to escape the village with Rocío. Fleeing in a boat, they face intense pursuit from soldiers hot on their trail. Rocío wakes up to the comforting presence of her father, and a much-awaited reunion with her brother ensues. At last, she is on her way home. It's revealed that Tim Ballard testified before the United States Congress, which resulted in the enactment of laws mandating government collaboration with foreign nations in trafficking investigations.